Good morning, everybody. I think we'll go ahead and get started. So those of you that are in the room, we do have a very large room here. If anybody wants to come down a little bit further, a little bit closer to the panel so they won't feel like they're all alone up here, please do. So, and we're very warm welcome also to all of those online. We have quite a few participants as well online. So I want to welcome you all today here at FAO headquarters, Freudian slip, FAO headquarters, and all of you online, of course, also, to this event called From Policy to Action, Investing in Women for a Just Agri-Food Systems Transformation. My name is Brenda Behan. I'm the director of the Gender Protection and Inclusion team in WFP, hence the slip up there. And I'm representing today the Global Secretariat Unit of the Joint Program on Rural Women's Economic Empowerment. And we will use the acronym JPRWEE going forward because that is very much a mouthful of a name of a program. And I'll be moderating the discussion today. So a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. We do have interpretation both online and here in the room, French, Arabic, and English. And also those of you who are joining in person, we do also have a bit of a tool we are using for the interactive part of this. It's a Slido, and I think we should see it on the screen. Where do we see that? Somebody help me? On your screen here in front of you, I guess. Are you seeing that? Is that coming up? Okay, great. So we're going to use that to get your comments, your reactions, and your feedback as we're moving forward. But then, of course, also you're welcome to, when we get to the questions section, to come on mic and ask your questions. But you do need to scan the QR code to get into the Slido. And for those of you who are online, you will have the interaction via Zoom. So to get us started, I wanted to give you a little bit of a background. It is 2 years ago now that the Committee on World Food Security, the CFS, endorsed these voluntary guidelines on gender equality and women and girls empowerment. And these guidelines are really aiming to address the barriers and the challenges that women and girls face in achieving food security and nutrition. And so we're here today not to talk about the guidelines so much, but to talk about how it is that we translate those into action. And we're going to hear a number of really great examples on that. These guidelines really constitute a roadmap for building inclusive, equitable, and sustainable food systems, really systems that are geared to benefit everyone. And initiatives like this JPRWEE show how we can take those commitments in those guidelines and make real and measurable change. So since 2014, this program has been implemented by 4 UN agencies. FAO, where you are this morning, IFAD also here in Rome, and UN Women headquartered in New York, and WFP also here in Rome. And these agencies have jointly implemented the JPRWEE, strengthening rural women's livelihoods, rights, and resilience. And this has been done with the support of Ireland, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, through the Multi-Party Trust Fund, as well as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in this phase 2. These are the donors and the supporters. We are midway through phase 2, and the phase 2 is being implemented in Nepal, Niger, Rwanda, Tanzania, Tunisia, and the Pacific Islands. And those islands are Fiji, Kiribati, Solomon Islands, and Tonga. So to date, the program has reached over 130,000 rural women and men, generated more than $3.5 million in sales, increased women's leadership by 25%, and contributed to gender mainstreaming in 6 national policies and strategies. And I think this really shows how these targeted investments and these partnerships are really essential to advance gender equality and to enable women to strengthen livelihoods, claim their rights, and build their resilience. So during this event, we will hear from our partners, from governments, and civil society representatives. And to open today's session, I'm very pleased to invite His Excellency Ambassador Christian Frutiger, the head of the delegation and Assistant Director General of the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. Excellency, I hand over to you to deliver the opening remarks.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Brenda. Well, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, warm welcome. Thank you for those who are here in the room, for having made your way so early in the morning through the rain, walking around half of the FAO and across the other half of the FAO to find your way into this room. Hopefully grabbing some breakfast outside. If you haven't, it's still there. You can still go and quickly have something. And a warm welcome for those who are joining us online. So, great pleasure on behalf of the Swiss government, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, to co-host this event together with FAO, IFAD, WFP, UN Women, and our partners, Norway, Sweden, Ireland, and a few others with whom we are co-organizing this event. So together, we are united by a shared conviction. Investing in women is investing in the transformation of our food system and in the future of sustainable development. Today's theme, from policy to action, is both timely and urgent. Around the world, women are the backbone of food systems, yet too often they do so without equal access to land, finance, technology, or decision-making power. This inequality is not only unjust, it is inefficient. It limits our collective ability to achieve food security and nutrition, climate resilience, and inclusive economic growth. Evidence is clear. When women have the same access to productive resources as men, farm yields increase by up to 30%. So I repeat, also for us men, farm yields increase by up to 30%. Hunger declines and local economies grow stronger. Gender equality in food systems is not just the right thing to do, it's actually the smart thing to do. The Voluntary Guidelines on Gender Equality and Women's and Girls' Empowerment in the context of food security and nutrition, endorsed here at the CFS in 2023, represent a landmark achievement. They provide us with a shared global framework rooted in human rights to guide our actions. But as we all know, guidelines alone are not enough. They must be implemented. They must reach the fields, markets, cooperatives, and communities where women live and work. This requires governments to translate global commitments into local policies, budgets, legal frameworks that are gender transformative and truly work for women. And to ensure that these policies are backed up by the political will and the resources needed to make lasting change. This is where initiatives like the Joint Program on Rural Women's Economic Empowerment, JPRWE, play a crucial role. Since 2014, as we've heard from Brenda, the program has reached over 130 rural women and men and their communities across Africa, Asia, the Pacific, and Latin America. It has shown us what is possible when we combine targeted investment, political will, and partnerships across institutions. We have seen, for example, in Tanzania, how supporting women's land rights can translate into tangible gains, not only for the women, but for the entire communities. We have seen in Nepal how access to finance and leadership opportunities changes trajectories for families and local economies. Yet we must also recognize that scaling such results requires more. It requires responsible and sustained investment, gender-responsive policy environments, strong partnerships among governments, UN organizations, international financial institutions, civil society, and the private sector. This is why today's event is so important. It provides a space to learn from each other, to share good practices and challenges, and to renew our collective commitment to action. So let's be ambitious. Let's ensure that the voluntary guidelines do not only remain on paper, but become living instruments, shaping laws, budgets, programs, and truly deliver for women in food systems. As Switzerland, we remain firmly committed to advancing gender equality and women's empowerment as a cornerstone of our international cooperation. Together, we can build food systems that are not only more productive and resilient, but also more just, inclusive, and sustainable. And again, investing in women provides 30% higher farm yields. So I wish you a fruitful conversation. I look forward to the results, and I look forward to translating the policies into tangible action that really moves us forward. So thanks for making your way here through the rain, and thanks for making your way, our way together forward to making tangible impact. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Excellency, and thank you for opening us the session and also for emphasizing really the investment pays off. And we need to be reminded that these are, in fact, investments that have great yields. So I'd now like to welcome Alejandra Safa Barraza, the Global Coordinator of the program. And she will speak to us on the voluntary guidelines. She is from FAO and is here on the stage to my right. Alejandra has really been instrumental in shaping this program and making sure that we deliver on its commitments and bring it to action at the global level, but also at the regional and national level. So welcome, Alejandra, and over to you.
Thank you, Brenda. Good morning, colleagues, excellencies. The Voluntary Guidelines on Gender Equality and Women's and Girls' Empowerment, endorsed by CFS 2 years ago, are the first policy instrument negotiated by more than 130 countries, which clearly makes the linkages between gender equality agenda and the food security and nutrition agenda. As you will see soon in a nice video, there are powerful tools that is a policy instrument that will allow us to have a unique policy framework for the development of policies and programs that challenge discriminatory social norms that hold back women and girls and the achievement of food security and nutrition. Their implementation is voluntary and depends on political will and investment of time and human resources, as well as a collaborative approach mirroring the multi-stakeholder nature of CFS. The guidelines are a priority for FAO, who made significant contributions to their negotiations and formally committed through the Commit to Grow Equality initiative to kickstart their implementation in more than 10 countries by the end of 2026. This year, FAO has launched a 3-year program with the financial support of Switzerland, Canada, Germany, and France to promote the guidelines dissemination and uptake at global, sub-regional, national, and local levels. For example, at global level, the program aims to increase understanding and catalyze attention on the guidelines, content, and importance through dedicated public goods. For example, we just launched an e-learning course last week. The core of the program is being implemented in 4 countries: Colombia, Kenya, Nepal, and the United Republic of Tanzania. In Nepal and Tanzania, the program will closely work with rural communities and local leaders. And to maximize impact, it will partner with the UN Joint Program Rural Women's Economic Empowerment, whose work and innovative approaches at policy and programmatic level, from institutions to local communities, as we will see, represent a unique vehicle to promote the use of the guidelines. Moving forward, more resources, more time are needed to expand the program and ensure synergies and efforts together with different stakeholders, including programs like the RWEE that greatly exemplify how the guidelines can be put into action. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandra. We're going to move now to the panel discussion, and this is where we have a video. Oh, sorry. Okay, we will move to the video.
Around the world, food security, nutrition, economic growth, and social well-being improve when women and girls are empowered.
The CFS Voluntary Guidelines on Gender Equality and Women's and Girls' Empowerment are the result of negotiations between various stakeholders.
They are a powerful tool to help achieve gender equality, which is essential to eliminate hunger.
They acknowledge that women and girls experience various forms of discrimination and that we must confront harmful social norms and unequal power relations.
The guidelines unify goals for gender equality and food security.
It is time to put them into action. The guidelines cover 9 focus areas. These range from women's control over resources to their leadership and decision-making power. From the redistribution of unpaid care and domestic work and improved access to education to the elimination of all forms of violence against women and girls.
The successful implementation of the guidelines depends on our collective efforts. Investing time and resources is crucial to achieve impact. We must raise awareness about the guidelines, increase our capacity to use them, and replicate good practices across countries. Are you ready to act?
Great, thanks for that. Now we will move to the panel discussion. So we will hear from governments, donor and civil society, and really want to learn from them on their perspectives on integrating gender equality and women's empowerment into these investments, these targeted investments and partnerships. So we do have 4 panel members with us. We have first Hela Hassin Rezgoui, who is joining us online and is the director of the Rural Women's Support Office of the Ministry of Agriculture in Tunisia. Online, we have Ms. Monde Mukando, who is the director of the Blue Economy Development and Coordination Department in the Ministry of Blue Economy and Fisheries in the United Republic of Tanzania in Zanzibar, who I had the pleasure to meet actually when I was there and saw the JPRWE program in action. Here on the podium, we have Lisa Good, the Assistant Principal Officer of the Economics and Planning Division of the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine of Ireland. And then we also have here on the podium Suad Mahmoud, who is a member of the Civil Society and Indigenous Peoples Mechanism Coordination Committee and the Feminist Coordinator for Food Sovereignty in the Middle East and North Africa. So we'd like to begin with Ms. Rezgoui, and she brings to this discussion many years of experience in local development, in entrepreneurship, and in championing of gender equality for rural women. In Tunisia, we know that the economic empowerment of rural women is widely recognized as a cornerstone for development and resilience. Rural women play a central role in agriculture, in livestock breeding, and agri-food activities, ensuring both household food security and contributions to the national economy. So I want to ask Ms. Rezgoui, based on Tunisia's experience with JPRWE, what opportunities do you see, or what progress can you tell us about in turning these principles outlined in the guidelines into real change on the ground.
Merci, Madame Brenda. Permettez-moi de parler en français. Tout d'abord, je tiens à remercier les organisateurs de cet événement pour l'invitation adressée au Bureau d'appui à la femme rurale qui relève du cabinet du ministère de l'Agriculture, des Ressources hydrauliques et de la Pêche en Tunisie, à participer à cette importante rencontre sur la sécurité alimentaire mondiale de la politique à l'action, investir dans les femmes pour une transformation des systèmes agroalimentaires. En fait, cette invitation témoigne de la reconnaissance des efforts menés par notre pays pour promouvoir l'autonomisation économique et sociale des femmes rurales qui sont considérées comme un pilier essentiel du développement agricole et de la transformation durable des territoires. En fait, l'expérience tunisienne dans ce domaine repose sur une vision stratégique nationale, bien sûr avec des partenaires qui placent des femmes rurales au cœur du développement local et de la sécurité alimentaire. À travers le bureau d'appui à la femme rurale qui est au sein du ministère, il œuvre à renforcer la participation économique et sociale des femmes dans les chaînes de valeur agricoles, tout en intégrant la dimension du genre dans les politiques publiques. Le bureau, ainsi, il agit comme un espace de coordination, d'accompagnement, d'encadrement, en facilitant en fait l'accès des femmes rurales à la formation, à la facilitation du financement aux ressources naturelles et à l'entrepreneuriat agricole. Cette approche a permis de dégager plusieurs opportunités concrètes. En fait, le développement des partenariats territoriaux autour des projets de valorisation des produits locaux et la professionnalisation des groupements féminins agricoles, ainsi que la mise en réseau des actrices rurales au niveau régional et national. Sur le plan institutionnel, l'intégration du genre dans les stratégies agricoles et rurales constitue en fait une avancée majeure qui a favorisé une meilleure représentation des femmes dans les structures locales de décision à l'instar des structures socio-professionnelles. Passons à notre fameux partenariat avec le RWEE. En fait, les progrès réalisés grâce à la mise en œuvre de ce programme conjoint sur l'autonomisation économique des femmes rurales, mené en collaboration avec les 4 agences onusiennes, notamment la FAO, le FIDA, le PAM et ONU Femmes, sont particulièrement significatifs ces progrès. Donc, le partenariat, il a permis le renforcement des capacités disons, d'une centaine de femmes rurales à contribuer à soutenir la création d'activités génératrices de revenus, bien que les réalisations de terrain viennent d'être implantées, mais on en voit le changement et la promotion de cette culture entrepreneuriale qui vient d'être amorcée et bien entendu très bien prise en considération par les femmes dans le milieu rural. Les initiatives de terrain ont également favorisé une meilleure reconnaissance du rôle économique des femmes, notamment à travers l'accès, disons, aux ressources financières et productives. Donc, il y a eu des changements, disons, concrets, observés, qui se traduisent par une amélioration dans les revenus grâce à ces activités, ces activités génératrices de revenus. Et il y a une plus grande, bien entendu, résilience qui est constatée, une implication des femmes dans la gouvernance locale, du moment qu'elles appartiennent à des structures socio-professionnelles et grâce à des sessions de formation en leadership, en une méthodologie nouvelle qui a été adoptée dans les zones d'intervention du GPRWE, qui sont à l'échelle des deux gouvernorats, à savoir le gouvernorat de Jandouba et le gouvernorat de Kerouan en Tunisie. Donc, on voit que les résultats démontrent une mise en œuvre des principes d'égalité du genre, d'autonomisation des femmes, des filles, qui sont portés par les institutions, par nos institutions engagées et soutenues par des partenaires solides gouvernementaux et bien sûr avec les partenaires internationaux avec qui on traite. Donc, ceci avait généré des transformations qu'on espère durables au service de ce qu'on appelle cette justice sociale et au sein de ce concept très important de sécurité alimentaire et du développement rural inclusif dans notre pays, en Tunisie. Et je vous remercie, je suis à votre disposition pour une autre question.
Thanks very much for a very comprehensive overview. I do have one follow-up question. We will have some more questions at the end, but I want to take advantage here to ask you, what do you see from these guidelines as really the most relevant to your national priorities? And also, how do you see the private sector engaging in this in your experience?
Donc, vous vous adressez encore à moi, madame?
Sorry, question back to you. Thank you very much.
D'accord. Donc, notre priorité, en fait, c'est de continuer à œuvrer dans ce partenariat et, bien entendu, à mieux creuser dans les mécanismes de financement en faveur des femmes rurales. Donc, on en voit très bien des réalisations sur le terrain, une distribution de cheptels surtout, dans des volets, dans des spéculations particulières, à l'instar de l'aviculture, dans l'apiculture. Donc, on espère encore d'élargir ou bien de développer ce mécanisme parce qu'il reste encore disons, à développer. On va voir, bien entendu, l'impact de ces réalisations après encore durant l'année 2026. Ce qu'on a actuellement, c'est toute une stratégie aussi. J'ai oublié de vous dire qu'il y a une stratégie qui est en cours de validation, qui est sous le lead du ministère de la Famille, de la Femme, de l'Enfance et des Personnes âgées. Donc, cette stratégie qui est en faveur de l'autonomisation économique des femmes, elle va être démarrée dans les meilleurs délais et chaque ministère va contribuer avec, dans son secteur pour mettre en œuvre cette stratégie au profit des femmes dans le milieu rural afin d'encourager et afin de pousser vers cet aspect d'autonomisation économique et sociale de la femme rurale. Donc, chaque ministère, au sein du gouvernement tunisien, sous le lead du ministère de la Femme, va essayer de contribuer dans son secteur pour pousser ces femmes à mieux se concrétiser à travers des activités, bien sûr, chacun dans son secteur, chaque ministère dans son secteur. Donc, le partenariat, il est indispensable maintenant pour mieux réussir les actions, parce que l'ancienne stratégie, elle est achevée. Maintenant, on est en cours de mettre en œuvre cette nouvelle stratégie et c'est avec le partenariat, avec l'appui des partenaires qu'on a pu élaborer cette stratégie et j'espère qu'elle sera mise en œuvre dans les meilleurs délais.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great examples of how we actually need to sustain these efforts and embed them into international strategies. I would like to move now quickly, in the interest of time, to East Africa and welcome Ms. Monde Muhandu. She, again, is the director in the Ministry of Blue Economy and Fisheries, where we, in Tanzania, we are implementing the RWEE program. And we've seen really significant results there, women's participation in household decision-making rising by 94% and increases in income by 33%. So very, very significant progress. Ms. Muhando, we'd like to hear from you a bit about Tanzania's experiences and really hear your view on how you made this change come about in such a significant manner, and also hear any of the sort of the main enablers or challenges that you experienced in that process. Ms. Muhondo, I think you might be on mute.
Apologies for that.
There you are. Yes, thank you.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to be part of the plenary this morning. And it's been a great session so far. As Tanzania, both mainland and Zanzibar, the voluntary guidelines for gender equality for women and girls empowerment does offer a strategic a policy anchor for both the government as well as the JPRA program. It offers strategic anchor to align the national and local intervention with the global commitments. Furthermore, it does help us to inform designs of inclusive knowledge products, trainings, as well as advocacy. It advocates for gender transformative approaches to agriculture as well as rural development. Again, it's a joint program. It supports to the multi-agency coordination and the accountability mechanism. And there's a handful of opportunities that are there to turn the principles into real change on ground. And we've seen several outcomes out of the JPRA program, looking into, say, strengthening women's land and property rights in Tanzania, in a scenario where, say, in Zanzibar, we have majority of seaweed farmers being women, almost taking up to 80% of the total workforce. So far, the operation has been in informal zones, and translating these guidelines have facilitated to formalize access and tenure rights for these women to access these farming sites. Furthermore, with the JPRA program, they've managed to integrate the nutrition sensitive and climate resilience and have it serve the pathway for both food security and gender equity in Tanzania. These interventions so far have had tremendous outcomes, where we see their women leaderships being strengthened, they're participating in food system, they're improving their dietary diversity, and they're being they have opened up new income generating opportunities that have women as the key actors in them. And as of 2023, the national land policy for Tanzania has been revised, and now it mandates women inclusion in land governance structure and access equal right to access, ownership, ability to inherit and lease. under the land customary tenures. So that's really a great achievement. And nevertheless, the guidelines calls us to redistribute to redistribute unpaid care workers, and we have seen the opportunity where we have been able to recognize and redistribute unpaid care work. Most of the women engaged either in horticulture or seaweed farming in Tanzania, that's not their only main activities. They also have demanding domestic responsibilities, taking care of families and all. So this can be localized by integrating the community childcare models, having time-saving technologies, and as well as having male engagement in these activities. So with that, we've seen how JP have really come into play with introducing the clean cooking interventions for reaching to women that are entrepreneurs with gas stoves, thus reducing the time, so they have ample time to take care of other local domestic activities, but also reduce poverty because they're more efficient, and as well as serve as a way to remove health risks for them. Furthermore, with Zanzibar, we've been able to integrate these clean cooking interventions into the plans for Zanzibar, as well as the having gender transformative approaches such as the gender action learning system, the girls, and the SASA, the start awareness, support, and action methodologies. It helps shifting norms to around domestic shifting norms around domestic labor and shared responsibilities in our communities. So integration of simple things like childcare centers and clean cooking have really been adopted in our countries, in our district plans, and these interventions have really helped the women in the communities. Furthermore, as the Ministry of Blue Economy and Fisheries, we oversee the utilization of ocean resources in a manner that is more sustainable. So there's an opportunity in enhancing climate resilience as well as environmental sustainable practices, especially for seaweed farmers, say in Zanzibar, where we see seaweed farming is vulnerable to changing in environmental conditions. When temperatures are too high, the production goes low, and this is affecting the majority of the seaweed farmers, who are, again, women. But then these guidelines emphasize on gender-responsive climate adaptations. With that, it presents an opportunity to co-develop early warning sign systems, say, diversify income streams, say, at a time where seed farming activities can't be done effectively, where you have much production, you can diversify to, say, seed value addition or any other activity that is income generating and is possible to be done by women in Tanzania. And also, it's an opportunity to integrate women's knowledge to ecosystem monitoring. And that's really helping the ecosystems, helping the environment. At the same time, they are being benefited by using and utilizing the oceans. So, say, furthermore, there's so many other ways that we see as an opportunity for translating these guidelines to benefit our nation. But so far, we've seen that JP has been implemented in Tanzania. It's not just an implementation to get the outcomes that are set for the program. It's been shaping a movement, and this movement has proven that rural women when rural women are equipped with rights, resources, and they're recognized, they do not just participate, they take lead. And as we've heard before, when women are engaged, 30% is increased. So yeah, when women are taking the lead, food system becomes more and just resilience and sustainable for all. And with our government, under the Blue Economy and Fisheries flagship, we operate under the Blue Economy policy of 2022, but also a strategy. It's implementing strategy, which is coming to its end next year, and we are revising it. As we revise, we do tend to look for advocacy from guidelines and interventions that are out there, so that we can streamline gender equality for women as well as youth that are in Tanzania. So such guidelines really come into play when it comes to formulating strategies and formulating policies that guide blue economy in Zanzibar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really, really exciting work, and really I loved hearing that, you know, it's not just about the project outcomes, but really triggering a movement and so much change also in what governments are doing at all levels in Tanzania. I'm going to move because I realize we are behind a little bit in terms of time. So I'm going to move to Elisa Good. And I'm going to hear, you know, we know that you are in Ireland also working with national programs and doing much of the work there in the country, and have described, I think, smart economics as sort of the investing in women really being a good thing, not only sort of morally, but really making sense in a business manner. But can you tell us, you know, in Ireland, how you've done that, what kind of financial choices and advocacy you've used to scale up support to rural women and to make change in your country? Thanks.
Yes, thanks, Brenda. We hear the phrase investing in women is smart economics a lot, but what really matters is what that looks like in practice. From an Irish perspective, we see it very simply. By investing in women, we are investing in stronger families, more productive farms, and more resilient communities. It's not just good economics, but it's actually good common sense. The key to success is ensuring support is targeted, demand-driven, and actually reaches the women it is intended to support. Legislation and policy frameworks play a key role in promoting the structures central to advancing gender equality in our food systems. They provide a clear roadmap for the implementation of supports that are aligned with clearly identified goals. This alignment is critical to a coherent, targeted, and inclusive approach at all levels. Ireland recognises that women play a particularly crucial role in agriculture and food production, but often do not accrue the benefits of their labour. Women bear the majority of the unpaid caring responsibilities of family, are often excluded from farming-related decision-making at the household and community level, and face barriers to education, land, and in particular access to finance. Therefore, advancing gender equality is a key policy priority for Ireland, both domestically and internationally. Over the last 50 years, greater gender equality has played a major role in the social and economic transformation of our little country. Throughout the 70s, a series of reforms were implemented, including removing the marriage bar, a policy which required women to resign from the public service following marriage. The Employment Equality Act was passed, which outlawed discrimination on the basis of gender or marital status, while equal pay and equal treatment directives were implemented to ensure equal pay for equal work, paving the way for advances in gender equality. Since then, successive Irish governments have adopted a systematic and evidence-based approach in its efforts to work towards gender equality. We recognise that gender equality is a weakness, and increasing women's economic empowerment is opportunity to benefit from women's unique perspectives. To reinforce this idea, the Irish government sought to increase female participation on state boards by introducing a target of at least 40% females on state boards. As a result, 10 of the 13 agri-food state bodies in Ireland, under the remit of our department, have already reached or exceeded this goal. Our current programme for government recognises the need to do more on equality. It includes specific gender equality commitments which will benefit women in agriculture, including the publication and implementation of an updated national strategy for women and girls, advancing gender budgeting, encouraging mentorship opportunities and enhanced women's leadership roles, access to finance and implementation of the recommendations of the Gender Equality Action Plan for higher education. As well as being a priority for the government, gender equality is a key objective within the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. Specific commitments have been made, including examination of potential taxation barriers impacting female inheritance in farming, the implementation of the Women in Agriculture National Action Plan, and the promotion and normalisation of female succession. This data became available on foot of Ireland's most recent census of agriculture, which was completed in 2020. It indicated only 13% of farm holders and only 34% of farm workers in Ireland were women. In order to address this gender gap, Ireland developed several CAP strategic plan measures from a gender-aware perspective to ensure there were no inherent barriers to female participation. These measures include a 20% increase in the grant rate available under the Capital Investment Scheme of up to 60% of any investment in upgrades by women farmers to farm buildings and equipment on their enterprises. The promotion of women-only knowledge transfer groups was established to encourage peer-to-peer education and training. Improved recording and reporting of gender data is used to inform future policy, and an open call under the European Innovation Partnership Programme for innovative approaches to support greater gender balance in farming was established. These measures are provided in addition to the CAP supports already available to all farmers regardless of gender. In 2020, Ireland's 10-year agri-food stakeholder strategy, Food Vision 2030, recognised the importance of gender balance to the long-term sustainable future of the sector. It made commitments to contribute to the development of the National Women and Girls Strategy, promote and support women's networks and mentoring programmes, and to hold a national dialogue on women in agriculture. This dialogue was held in 2023. It provided a platform for female farmers and women to discuss the key barriers and challenges impacting them on a daily basis. It also explored the possible opportunities for addressing gender equality across the wider agri-food sector through policy. The outcomes and recommendations formed the basis of a national action plan for women in agriculture, which continues to drive momentum for change. The 12-point action plan focuses on improving education and awareness, leadership and visibility, access to finance and legal supports, and increasing women's role in sustainability. To ensure timely and efficient implementation of this action plan, a stakeholder working group was established. The group comprises a range of stakeholder representatives from across the sector who facilitate and guide the progress of the plan. This ensures a targeted approach and means that women have a say in how they are treated. The group has worked hard to establish a Gender Equality Excellence Award for students studying agriculture and food science. This award acts to increase recognition of women's contributions to the sector through education, innovation and research, while promoting careers in the sector through female leadership and role models. The group has also published a booklet on female-led sustainability, which profiles women leading the way in the implementation of more sustainable methods of food production across the various agricultural subsectors in Ireland. We are currently working to publish a communications and language guide for use across the sector to ensure the use of more gender-inclusive language and imagery in communications and media reports about Irish agriculture and food production. The group intends to recommend the implementation of gender equality impact assessments are embedded in the design process for future CAP and national interventions. Separately, since 2015, the Department of Agriculture has provided €2.5 million in financial support for rural female entrepreneurs under the ACORNS programme. This initiative is a tailored peer learning programme to support early-stage female entrepreneurs in rural Ireland. The programme caters for up to 50 new female entrepreneurs each year and has seen over 500 applicants successfully complete the programme to date. A recent review of the outcomes of this programme have indicated in excess of 30% increases in turnover, employment and exports of the participant entrepreneurs. In total, almost €20 million has been invested in female-specific interventions with a view to improving the position of rural and farming women in Ireland to date. To complement policy in this area, we have also commissioned research to support gender equality objectives in the post-2027 CAP and future agri-food strategy. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lisa, and really interesting to hear many of the parallels around the space for the dialogue, the participation in governance, the policies which really in a targeted manner, address some of the barriers, the financial support. But I'm hearing also from you a lot around peer learning, which I think is an important element that perhaps we could learn a little bit more from your experience. But I wanted to move to our last panelist, and we're hearing a lot from everybody. I see there's a lot of questions also in the chat. But I wanted to turn to Ms. Suad Mahmoud, who is a Chief Engineer and Phytosanitary Controller at the Feminist Coordination for Food Sovereignty. And we really want to hear about your perspective and in the context of your work, advocating for the rights of women farmers. And I'm wondering what you think is perhaps the most critical investment or policy change that you've seen is really needed to advance the implementation of the guidelines and really make a difference for women.
Merci beaucoup. Et je voudrais commencer par remercier les organisateurs de cette session, ainsi que toutes et tous qui ont permis la création de cet espace de dialogue. Mais je crois que mes remerciements les plus sincères vont surtout aux femmes rurales, aux travailleurs, travailleuses et travailleurs d'agricultrices qui chaque jour nourrissent nos communautés et préservent la terre et les savoirs, souvent dans l'ombre et dans la précarité. C'est en leur nom et avec elles que je prends la parole aujourd'hui. Si nous voulons vraiment, d'une manière générale, donner aux directives volontaires sur l'égalité des genres et l'autonomisation des femmes, que ça fait une différence dans la vie quotidienne des femmes rurales, il faut oser aller plus loin. Plus que les beaux principes, il faut remettre en question les rapports de pouvoir qui structurent notre agriculture, notre économie et nos politiques publiques. Sincèrement, on ne peut pas aller au-delà de ça si on ne met pas en question tous ces actes-là. Parce que la réalité, par exemple, en Tunisie, comme dans l'ensemble de la région MENA, principalement, dont ma coordination s'occupe, et que les femmes produisent sans posséder. Elles travaillent sans reconnaissance et qu'elles nourrissent sans décider, qu'elles assurent la production de la vie, mais sans être reconnues comme des actrices économiques à part entière. Le travail, souvent non rémunéré, soutient toute la chaîne alimentaire tout en restant invisible. C'est pourquoi, pour moi, le changement de politique est le plus crucial. Et c'est celui qui garantit la maîtrise réelle des moyens de production, à commencer par la terre. Il faut que les femmes rurales puissent accéder à la terre, en être propriétaires et détentrices de droits sûrs, et non plus défendre des structures familiales coutumières. Sans cette base, toutes les autres politiques restent fragiles. De même, il ne suffit pas aussi d'avoir des lois sur le papier. Il faut avoir des politiques fortes, publiques fortes, des budgets sensibles aux gens et des services accessibles. Les crèches rurales, ça n'existe pas. Les centres de santé, ça n'existe pas. Des campagnes de protection sociale, ça n'existe pas. Des financements adaptés, ça n'existe pas. Une vulgarisation agricole des pensées pour elles aussi. On en parle, mais ce n'est pas elle qui parle. Autrement dit, une action publique qui reconnaît et soutient le travail productif et reproductif des femmes. Je reviens en Tunisie, nous avons déjà quelques fondations. Il faut dire ça, c'est une vérité. Nos lois sont loin d'être parfaites, mais elles offrent un point de départ qui n'est pas mauvais. Là où d'autres femmes de ma région, par exemple, font face à des contextes juridiques plus restrictifs, les Tunisiennes disposent au moins d'un socle minimum sur lequel on peut construire. Et c'est précisément pour cela que nous avons la responsabilité de passer un peu plus loin que les autres et montrer dans la transformation, que la transformation, elle est possible. Mais au-delà aussi des réformes, il y a un autre enjeu fondamental, le pouvoir collectif. Des directives ne peuvent devenir un outil de changement que si elles vont être, que si ces directives sont appropriées par les femmes elles-mêmes. Cela suppose qu'elles puissent comprendre, débattre, revendiquer à travers ces textes. Parce que sans ça, je crois que les textes vont rester sur le papier. Ce n'est pas au gouvernement de les approprier. Et même s'ils les approprient, on ne peut pas aller plus loin. Donc, c'est pourquoi, sur le plan pratique, je crois que profondément que ce guide reste une véritable opportunité, à condition qu'il soit vulgarisé dans la langue et le vécu des femmes rurales, parce que beaucoup d'entre elles ne maîtrisent que le dialecte, leur dialecte local. Alors, si nous voulons que ce texte vive, il doit être parlé en leur langue, il doit résonner en leur réalité, et ce n'est pas ce n'est qu'en 2 ans, dans ce cas-là, que les directives deviendront un outil concret et pas un document réservé pour les experts. Et c'est ce qu'on est en train de voir presque par rapport à tous les guides d'une manière générale. Imaginez une femme, par exemple, de Coran en Tunisie ou dans le sud tunisien, qui comprend que ce guide, il parle en elle de ses droits sur la terre, de sa sécurité, de sa dignité. Et c'est là que commence la transformation réelle pour ces femmes-là. Et c'est là le socle qui peut être effectivement donné à ces femmes. Je reviens en même temps en Tunisie, toujours, c'est par comparaison à la région, ce que nous avons un avantage comparatif, même limité, mais dans la région mondiale, ces directives peuvent être et peuvent devenir un véritable levier d'émancipation. Et moi, durant les négociations, j'ai dit ça. Ce guide, comme une femme, peut-être intellectuelle en Tunisie, ça ne m'ajoute pas grand-chose. Mais par rapport aux femmes de ma région, je crois que c'est un véritable levier d'émancipation et même de survie par rapport aux femmes rurales qui vivent encore sous la législation discriminatoire, des conditions de travail extrêmement dures. Et si nous réussissons à les rendre accessibles et à les traduire dans leur réalité, ce guide, elles peuvent changer le cours des choses. En résumé, je peux dire que faire avancer la mise en œuvre des directives, c'est aller au-delà du cadre institutionnel pour toucher la vie réelle des femmes. En premier lieu, c'est oser nommer les rapports de domination, reconnaître la valeur du travail invisible des femmes et redonner le pouvoir à celles qui font vivre nos territoires. Parce qu'on sait tous que l'égalité ne se décrète pas, elle se conquiert. Et cette conquête commence lorsque les femmes rurales, avec leurs paroles, leur savoir et leur force, deviennent les véritables actrices de transformation sociale. Et merci.
Thank you, Ms. Mahmoud, also for opening with thanking the women who actually are feeding the world and supporting their communities. And we've heard also from you the need to translate this into local languages, but also into the context. And I think this is a super important takeaway. I am being reminded that we have a hard stop at 9:45, so we only have about 9 minutes left. There are some really important and interesting questions in all of our chats here, and I'm going to pick just a couple of them. But do rest assured, we are actually going to look at all of the questions and provide some answers and circulate those to the participants. But I wanted to ask if we still have online Ms. Rizgui and Ms. Muhando, a question which is percolating through from several of you around the private sector. What do we really need from the private sector, and what, in your experience, invokes change in the ways in which private sector works with women farmers and also addresses some of the barriers and some of the questions we've heard around the lack of women actually benefiting from their own labor and also being burdened by unpaid care. Any thoughts that you'd like to offer in that regard? I see we have Ms. Rigui, if you want to come in first.
Oui, parfaitement. En fait, déjà, Madame Mahmoudi avait évoqué le côté institutionnel et l'impact de ce qu'on a au niveau des institutions ou bien que génèrent les institutions sur les femmes dans le milieu rural. Moi, je dis que le bureau d'appui à la femme rurale, qui est déjà implanté dans le cabinet du ministère, et que la mission primordiale, c'est d'essayer de rapprocher les femmes dans le milieu rural. Et bien plus, le bureau d'appui à la femme rurale, il est à une échelle centrale et il a des partenaires régionaux qui relèvent de chaque CRDA. Ce sont les arrondissements d'appui à la femme rurale dont les missions, c'est aussi d'assurer l'encadrement des femmes dans le milieu rural, essayer de leur faciliter l'accès au financement parce qu'on sait très très bien que l'accès au financement est très dur. Et d'ailleurs, le travail maintenant en mise sur cet aspect, comment faciliter l'accès au financement du moment que il y a une quasi-majorité des femmes qui ne possèdent pas le foncier. Et c'est le seul garant, dans la majorité des cas, pour accéder au financement. Et là, ça sera, j'espère, dans le cadre d'une prise de conscience de tout le monde pour créer, pourquoi pas. Et là, on s'appuie sur la présence des partenaires pour peut-être accéder à des institutions financières via quelques projets comme ça a été fait avec d'autres initiatives. Encore plus, notre assise juridique, elle est très importante, comme vient de dire Madame Mahmoudi. Donc, on a plusieurs lois en faveur des femmes et la plus récente, c'est celle qui est relative au décret de loi numéro 4 de l'année 2024, donc qui stipule que la femme pourrait jouir d'une protection sociale. Et là, c'est le travail qui est majeur. Il y a un partenariat entre les ministères, certes, mais on voit bien que les femmes optent parfois pour les solutions qui sont faciles. C'est-à-dire, elle ne peut pas peut-être projeter dans l'avenir en disant que je peux me priver d'un système de contribution actuel qui est le plus fluide, le plus facile, pour passer à un autre système de contribution afin que je devienne une vraie entrepreneur. Et là, je crois que c'est vrai que c'est une affaire de sensibilisation, certes, mais aussi c'est une affaire de prise de conscience de ces femmes pour qu'elles accèdent à un pas en avant et disons, comment dire, se baser sur un autre système de contribution qui lui est mieux bénéfique. Et là, c'est un grand travail qui va être fait dans le cadre des journées de sensibilisation, parce que le ministère des Affaires sociales table sur cette loi, aussi le ministère de l'Agriculture. Il y aura un fonds qui va générer en faveur de ces femmes et c'est grâce à ce décret de loi. C'est vrai qu'il y a beaucoup de travail à faire. On compte aussi sur nos partenaires pour mieux rapprocher, c'est-à-dire mieux prendre en considération les problèmes de terrain, bien sûr en consultation avec les institutions nationales qui ont des priorités. Et là, c'est une recommandation de la part du bureau pour qu'on ait plus de projets qui tablent sur les femmes dans le milieu rural et qui peut-être qui pourront l'améliorer de point de vue autonomisation, parce que c'est un grand travail à faire. Et je crois c'est en partenariat avec les instances internationales, à l'instar des 4 agences onusiennes au sein du GPRUI et avec les autres partenaires, ainsi qu'avec les parties gouvernementales. Et je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. If we still have Ms. Mujando, I wondered if you would like to offer any thoughts on that question around private sector, just very briefly.
Yeah, thank you very much. My former colleague has also touched based on much of what I had to say. But also, we see the importance of having private actors co-invest in value addition, equipment, market linkages. So, expand market access for products where women are key producers, say seaweed, orange flesh, sweet potatoes in Tanzania, but also support women cooperatives, especially in areas like seed farming, to formalize and scale up and participate in public procurement and export markets. Furthermore, we have seen that childcare centers have proven to work well, so scaling up such initiatives and having formal financial institutions that can help reduce female dependency and inform lending and creating inclusive financing system is something that we see as an angle that private sectors can tap into. Companies that can operate in rural areas could become role models in gender inclusive employment and leadership and corporate social responsibilities. Generally, they can empower rural women not only for the good of the community, but it could be a smart business for them as well.
Super.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry to jump in here, but we really are close on time, and we do want to hear from Ms. Lauren Phillips, who's the Deputy Director of FAO's Rural Transformation and Gender Equality Division, for some closing remarks on what I think has been a great session so far. Lauren.
Thank you so much, Brenda. I know we only have 1 minute. I really appreciate the variety of examples from different countries and parts of the sector that we heard today. Maybe I can try to pull it all together by just highlighting one area where I see a lot of synergies. The ambassador started by speaking about the productivity gap between farms managed by men and women, but maybe another area that you heard about some interventions today is the wage gap. So, in the 2023 Status of Women in Agri-Food Systems report, we reported that there's a wage gap of around 84 cents on the dollar that women make compared to men in off-farm agri-food systems employment, which wasn't one of the statistics that we put at the headline. So you may remember 82 cents, but that's for on-farm wage employment. And I wanted to say that, an increasing number of women are working off-farm in agri-food systems, and so that wage gap is becoming more and more important. We just recently published a regional perspective and overview on sub-Saharan Africa, and there we found that 73% of workers in food processing and services in sub-Saharan Africa are women. So if we don't address that wage gap, we're basically not addressing a major problem about the quality of work and decent work in off-farm agri-food systems. And that's why I think it's important to highlight how all of these initiatives fit together, projects, programs, and the voluntary guidelines, because the voluntary guidelines have an entire set of policy recommendations amongst the 9 that you heard in the video on decent employment, which really calls upon all actors to work together, whether it's the private sector or the public sector in creating an enabling set of policies, or the private sector in improving wages and working on gender transformative approaches. And so I just wanted to highlight the fact that that recommendation to promote decent work in public and private sectors through the respect of workers' rights, social dialogue, and access to social protection systems, which is the text in the voluntary guidelines, is reflected in the kinds of interventions you heard today in Tanzania to have better childcare, in Tunisia to have better collective action. And I think also in the Commit to Grow Equality initiative that Alejandra mentioned, which has a section on closing the wage gap by asking both public and private sector actors, as well as civil society, to implement policies or programs which tackle fair pay and wage gaps, to provide training and partnership for the upskilling of women in agri-food systems value chains, and to increase access to childcare and social support in agri-food systems employment. So sometimes it sounds like we're doing a lot of things and they're not connected, but I really wanted to emphasize the fact that if you look carefully through programs like the Joint Program on Rural Women's Economic Empowerment, the Voluntary Guidelines, and Commit to Grow Equality, you can see these lines running through, right, on the importance of really working to address a couple of these critical gaps, the one on productivity, the one on wages, and the one around norms and policies which need to be enabling.
So I hope that helps to pull it together in 2.5 minutes. Brenda, over to you.
Amazing, really well done. So thank you, everybody, both online and in person, for being here and for the great panelists that we've had today and for all of your great questions, which we will continue to address as a community. I think they are questions for all of us, and we will work together to actually solve those in the future. Thanks so much.